Hey everybody, it's Tani Seren here, and today we're going to talk about a big, long, I've got notes sort of topic. The topic is manipulation techniques in relationships. So I had previously come out with a video that was red flags in relationships, and I got a lot of responses and a lot of people that were asking about how they can keep an eye out for manipulation techniques. Because that's the thing about manipulation. It's sneaky. It's not always something that you can see when you're in a relationship. Sometimes other people see it, but you can't come to terms with it. It's really hard to kind of see these sort of red flags or see what's being done to you until you're at a point where you're ready to be done with it. So these are some things to keep an eye out for, things to definitely recognize in your relationship, and to also ensure that you're not doing to others. If you're doing any of these things, really question why it is you are trying to treat your partner like this, and why you are trying to manipulate them. So the first, and I think some of the easier ones, will go with guilt. So if you have a partner or a friend that uses guilt to control you. So essentially turning things around, like, I love you so much more than you love me, making you feel guilty, like you're not really putting in as much as I am. I'm doing all these things, but you're not. Using guilt to control somebody is definitely a manipulation technique of a very toxic person. You should never try to do things, or your partner should never try to do things that would invoke guilt in you in order to make you do something else. So, I mean, even low scale sort of things, like if your partner is, this is a bit more of an extreme example because I'm using something like smoking, which can be a deal breaker in relationships and can be something a little bit darker. But let's generalize this here for a moment. Say that you're smoking and your partner knows you smoke, and they decide to sit down and go, it's just, I love you so much, I would never do that. I would never shorten my lifespan, I wouldn't. And the goal would be to get you to stop smoking. That sort of technique, using guilt, trying to guilt you into stopping something, is not healthy. That's not a good way of doing things, and it's really definitely a red flag to look out for. So also forcing their previous insecurities on you. And this is something I feel like we're all guilty of. We might experience something in our past that's changed us, and or maybe we've been cheated on. And now we go into our next relationships a bit guarded and worried. But if you're pushing that insecurity onto someone else, like, I don't want you texting your dude friend because I've been cheated on in the past and I'm not sure. You need to start over with a clean slate, but old knowledge. And what I mean by that is you can have all the knowledge of the things that have been wronged of you in the past and the way that they happened and the techniques that were used, and you can keep that to make sure that you're more aware of your surroundings and the people around you. But to immediately invoke those rules that you've got in your mind and those ideas of loyalty or of what a good girlfriend is based on your previous, sort of relationships, that is not healthy. You cannot restrict your current relationship for something that someone else, completely other person, did to you. You cannot do it. You can only be wise about that experience, and you can enter into, this new relationship with a bit more of a knowledgeable mind about some of these things, but you cannot push your insecurities on your others. So if you've got someone who's living in the past and making you do things to accommodate their past to that degree, that is something to definitely keep note of. So another thing is gaslighting. So gaslighting kind of goes along with some of these in general. It's a way to kind of, I'm encompassing a lot of these individual ideas. If you don't know what gaslighting is, it's essentially doing things in your power to make the other person feel like their mind, their memories, and their feelings and recollections of what transpired between you never happened, or that they remembered it differently than you did. it really can go as far as to actually making someone believe that they need to depend on you because their memory or their understanding of a situation isn't what it seemed. They twist and manipulate and turn these sort of ideas and these situations and relationships where perhaps they were in the wrong to make it seem like, one, they never even happened in the first place, or two, that you didn't remember it correctly and that perhaps you were in the wrong. They try to really just destroy your memory of things and your recollection of them. And it's important to understand, first and foremost, that no matter how you feel, even if you don't think that your feelings are okay, like even if you don't think that the reason you feel that way about something is right or okay, it's still valid. Your feelings about something are still valid, and when someone tries to change your feelings and the way that you perceived a situation, that is a manipulation technique. So another one that I want to do is when they make you doubt yourself. So when somebody is pointing out your weaknesses more than your strengths, when they're saying things like, I have your best interests at heart and that's why I want you to do better, and that's why I'm telling you that project you're continuing to do sucks, or that your book is terrible, or whatever. There's one thing to be honest and to provide constructive criticism to the person you're speaking with. And it's another thing to tell them that what they're doing is wrong and to instill doubt and to destroy their dreams and the hopes and the goals that they have for their future. That is something else entirely. So it's important to understand that your partner, your friends, the people around you should build you up more than they tear you down. And if they are trying to instill doubt on you, that is something to definitely look out for. So another one is when they make you responsible for their emotions. So if you start to feel like if someone's angry, it must be because of something you did, or if someone's sad, you are responsible to fix it. I had an ex in the past that used to have horrendous panic attacks. And at first it would be great because I was able to talk him down a bit. And so I felt like I was needed and I felt like I was helping. And when the situation had to do with me, I felt like that was part of my responsibility. But then he started calling every time he had one, and I wasn't maybe, in a right place to talk someone down off, an anxiety attack, and I wanted to so desperately, but he wasn't doing it with pure intention. I distinctly remember several times him saying things like, you used to be able to talk me down from this. Like, there's clearly no further connection sort of a thing. Using my ability to control his emotions and calm him down to represent our relationship. That is not okay. Someone else's emotions are not your responsibility. That is why they are their emotions. Now, you might want to help your partner, and it's great to have a two-way street. But if you feel responsible for fixing someone every time they're in a funk and they can't fix themselves, that is very dependent. And that is something that is a big red flag for a healthy relationship, and for finding toxic people. So another thing, a phrase that I like to tell people to look out for, and that I would also really beg that you never use on someone else. Never tell someone or allow someone to tell you that no one else will love you or care for you or care about something of yours like they do. Even if it's true. Even if you feel that way, never say that to somebody. You're essentially devaluing them. You're telling them that there's no one else on this planet that will think that they're as spectacular as you do. You are trying to hold them in a bubble. Like, why would you ever leave? I am going to love you the most. And if you have to do that to keep someone around, that is a toxic relationship. They should feel that way in turn, and you should want them to feel that way in turn. Why would you want to trick them or manipulate them or try to talk them into being with you? That cheats yourself out of a loving relationship. Any sort of bullying. I'm not talking teasing. Okay? Sometimes we tease each other. It's fun. That doesn't mean it's toxic. Maybe your senses of humor are totally off from each other's and hers is just a little bit more crass or whatever the case. I'm talking about bullying. I'm talking about someone commenting on your weight, commenting on the things you're doing, bullying you. That is never okay. Never in any relationship. And if you have somebody who does that and then is consistently telling you that they're just joking, if someone's always just joking, don't let them use that as an excuse. If it comes out of your mouth and it hurts the other person and they tell you to stop and they communicate that, you need to stop joking. We are adults and we all are able to understand when we need to be serious. And if you don't understand when there are times to be serious, that is something that you must reflect in yourself as to why you can't breach that point and have a serious conversation with someone. Because if someone says you're hurting me and you can't stop doing what you're doing to hurt them, you do not truly care for their well-being and growth, and you do not need to be in a relationship with them. So there's two more here, and I think that the last two are the most important signs. One of them I read in a few different articles described as home court advantage. And I think that's a great way to describe this. If someone is isolating you from your hobbies, your friends, or your family, if someone is pulling you away from what you know and love and taking up all of your time, it's important to understand that you need to be a separate person outside of a relationship. You need to have your own hobbies, friends, relationships outside of the person that you're with, because you're still an individual person. It's also important to understand that those who are very toxic will try to isolate you from things that you're comfortable with, because it is easier to control you in that environment. So if they're pulling you away from the things that you know and love, you are going to have less things protecting you, less things backing you up, and less things that can go against them. So always make sure that you have your own independence and that your own hobbies and your own life are just as important to your partner as they are to you. Last and certainly not least, threatening suicide or harm to themselves if you leave. If you are ever in a situation where you're trying to leave a partner and they tell you, if you leave, I will kill myself or I will hurt myself, that is the biggest way, in my opinion, to manipulate someone. It doesn't even matter if they're telling the truth. Like I mentioned before, you should never be responsible for fixing someone else's mental state. You can help, you can assist, you can leave that house and you can call a, like a suicide hotline, you can call 911, you can make sure that people know that this person is in danger so they can seek help. But it is not up to you, especially when you're in a dangerous situation, such as being with someone who would hold their own life over you to keep you there and keep you from your own wants and desires and health. I mean, it's so important to understand that you cannot stay in that. You cannot, no matter how much your mind tells you that they could do it or that's, I mean, in some cases it's for attention, in some cases people do it, but either way, you should never be trapped in a situation where you feel that your own wants, needs, loves, healths, and desires are always going to be put under someone else, and that is exactly what that does. So I hope that some of these manipulation technique red flags were helpful for you. I hope that if you're practicing any of them or doing them with your partner, that you cease and you try to find healthier ways to have that relationship, because I do believe that a lot of people that have had toxic relationships in the past or have been the toxic person in a relationship can learn about these things and can change and truly can, kind of redeem themselves. It's important to understand, though, if you're in a relationship with one of these people, it is not up to you to be around while they redeem it. Sometimes a cold bucket of water on the face in a breakup is what people need to recognize some of these unhealthy things. It is not your responsibility. So thank you all so much. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm around daily with sex education, relationship information, reviews, and a bunch of stuff in between. If you have any other topics you'd love me to touch base on or things you'd love me to emphasize on, please write down in the comments and I would be happy to answer. Thank you all so much.